All right, I'd like to open the Clarksburg Select Board meeting on Thursday, May 18th at 9:00 a.m. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so Carl went, I didn't hear that. Carl went to get copies or something?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna need to obviously appoint two officers for the upcoming elections. And that, I'm not sure how they choose the two officers. I see we have like 4 available.
I think so.
So I'm
Let's
gonna
see
wait
what
till Carl comes down and I don't remember how we chose those. So, I guess we're kind of at a standstill until he comes down.
From Maryland regarding the officers.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
It is chili chili cha-cha.
Okay, concerning the appointment of 2 officers for the elections, the new election laws require the select board to approve the appointment of police officers for every election. At this time, Chief Williams does not have a specific schedule, but he will be working with me to be sure we have coverage for the day. Therefore, I respectfully request your approval for the appointments. Carl, do you know who they're looking to appoint?
He does not at this point. It's just giving him authority to appoint 2 officers.
Okay.
So we can leave it at his discretion and you can word it as such.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to allow Chief Williams to choose 2 police officers for the upcoming elections. Need a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
So if we want to jump to 5, because Sue is here, she wants something on the warrant for the council, the historical commission.
Hi,
So
Sue.
this is for the, is there something on there for the historical commission? Guys, I'm
Your bylaws?
here for the, this is for the council on aging.
Okay, that's fine too.
I do both.
We're good.
What you got for us, Sue?
Oh, yeah, I submitted updates for the bylaw that was written 30 years ago. And there's some necessary changes. A lot of it is just wording, but policy, some policy changes.
Okay.
It's just a different town than it was 30 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yes, it
They
is.
were meeting actually in this building at the time, so that's just one basic thing. We now have 20 years ago, the new building.
Mm-hmm.
So we, it's a lot of cleaning up, but it's just very hard to get new members. And so,
So you're looking to put this on the warrant?
on the warrant, yeah.
Do you have a?
I submitted the update to Carl.
I don't believe I saw the updates.
I have a copy. Let's see.
I thought I got it in here, but this is why we're meeting.
So this is front and back, just of the changes. But I did
Thanks, sir.
submit also a document that kind of highlighted
Okay.
the, why we were changing some of these things.
I guess she's showing the changes.
We were working off also a model suggested bylaw by the Massachusetts Council on Aging. But I don't know how many towns, but we're, as a small town, you know, with that little resources, we can't hire a director or staff. And so the current board is kind of also acting as director and staff. So a board normally advises and a director and staff implement, but we kind of do it all, so we need to kind of reflect some of that wording.
So And the Historical Commission is not updated.
No.
All right, so under Article 16, when you gave me that, I thought you were acting in the capacity of the Historical Commission. So in Article 16, strike Historical Commission and we'll write Council on Aging.
There had been changes made over the 30 years, so we're doing business kind of differently than what was proposed on the original bylaw. And I just came in like 2 years ago, so I don't know a lot of the history, but I know a lot has changed in town for the last, just looking at articles. You know, at one time, there were 100 people
Yeah,
in town,
Town hall,
seniors,
now we're meeting at the senior
1997, you
center,
know,
and-
so they had a lot of
And I
different
think they
committees
just cleaned it
under
up.
the board, you know, Friends Committee and the Sunshine Ladies, and there was the
So are they
Women's
gonna present
Group,
it
and the,
to us
And
with
the
all the
singers.
changes?
yeah, there was just a lot more
It'll be a warrant
involvement
article.
And they used to meet here.
Town up to
Yeah.
look at it. but
before we built the new
Senior Center,
building.
yeah.
I
20
didn't
years
see it all
ago.
either, because Susan's the one working on it. And Susan, you, I know you put a lot of work into this, checking other towns,
Right.
what they've done and updated everything that would be good for Clarksburg, so.
I mean, you know, if it doesn't fit in the future, future board can, you know, make changes and bring it to town as well. But at this point, we're just trying to have it reflect how we do business and the best as we can to continue it, to support our seniors, even though we have very little involvement.
So this draft has all your new recommendations on it, and you're going to write it as we need to read it? I mean, are we gonna read this?
Well, what we were thinking is that we could have that as a handout.
Mhm.
Of course, we're gonna have multiple handouts anyways, in color, so that people can actually see how it's worded now, and then what are the proposed changes. So then they would be easily digestible, if you will.
Yeah, there's that one page front and back. I didn't use color, but I could. That was kind of I was following the format last year when we were cleaning up language. It kind of struck out what we were removing and underlined what we were adding, so. But if you want to see it in context, you know, that'll be a lot more pages. But I did
this is
give you
the
for your
context.
review the complete bylaw, so you can kind of see it in context. But I don't know if
So the one that has the color on it is a lot of pages?
Yeah.
yeah, that's a complete, but there is one.
How many pages?
4?
Is that both sides?
I don't have them on both sides. Do I?
No.
Okay, maybe
So-
four.
so maybe
Oh,
we-
5 maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe we
5,
could
yeah,
just do
sorry.
both
5.
sides, so then you'd have a 2.5 or 3-page handout. You could cut it down.
Well, you said multiple handouts. Are people gonna have time to read this and digest it before town meeting? A lot of people are gonna be there looking at this for the first time and asked to vote on it.
We could ask Jason to upload it with the warrant when we post it.
That might be an idea. You know, I mean, like I said, people are getting different, you said there's gonna be multiple handouts, so
Yeah.
multiple things.
Well,
to be-
like relative to some of the zoning issues and Maryland's grammar and punctuation changes, and so yeah, we're gonna need to have some handouts.
Mhm.
The one page, that's a summary of changes?
That's the summary. I kind of,
So,
May
I just wondered-
31st of last year, the Clarksburg General Bylaws, I used the same format and just gave you the changes, striking out what we're removing and underlining what we're adding. So if that's what you want to put on the warrant, then
If-
the other
if-
was just kind of
Yeah,
background
that's-
So we
information.
can get away with just this.
I think so.
So you wanna go the one-page economy route?
Well, yeah, it's kind of obvious that they cross out what they want deleted and underline what they wanted added, so yeah, this would be pretty
Yeah, I don't
much
want
easier to
to
digest.
I don't want to
Yeah.
bog town meeting down with information that they really don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If,
yeah, this looks like it would do it. Okay. And so we're putting this as Article 16.
Yes,
It's going to read the same, except instead of the Historical Commission, the Council on Aging.
yes.
And they're going to refer to this handout.
We have a handout when it goes out to people, should it sit at the top, say Article 16, so they know to reference it? Oh, is that something usually,
We can.
Yeah,
you
we
just,
can do
you know,
that,
if someone
yeah.
has it, they know what article
Yeah.
it references
Yeah,
to.
especially if there's going to be more than one handout.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, the digital copy, I can just put Article 16 on top and resubmit it to you.
Okay, that would be welcomed.
Yeah, I just think that help people kind of connect the dots between the two where it falls on the warrant.
Okay.
And thanks for all your work on that.
Yeah.
I know that was a chore.
A lot of research.
Yeah, I see that. Can we keep these copies?
Yes.
I'd like to go over it myself. What do we need to do here, Carl? Just,
You can just make a motion to add to the warrant.
well, are we adding or just, it's already on the warrant?
Well, it's not really.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to add the recommendations of the, of changing the Clarksburg general bylaws on Council on Aging to be added to Article, not to be added to replace Article 16, instead of Clarksburg Historical Commission, now to read Clarksburg Council on Aging. If I said that right, I need a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
so this will be on the warrant, so thank you very much for all your work.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have the officers, now it's just reviewing the budget.
Okay, and so you have Donna's handout.
Yep.
So I think we're about as good as we can get. And if you look at, starting on the third page of the warrant into the fourth page, you can basically see where the cuts are and where the increases are. And so we're still going to need to utilize 231 to reduce the tax rate, which is how they require it be worded. And then also I'd like to point out relative to the stabilization, because the opioid settlement money has gone into, you have to deposit it into the general fund, and the Attorney General has said you can't do that, but Department of Revenue says you have to. So you have one side of the state government telling you one thing and the Attorney General saying the other. And so the solution that they've offered is to establish a special stabilization account for the opioids, so that it doesn't get lost in free cash when we get certified. If we won't have to worry about that if we take the money that we have already received, which has a special purpose for spending it, and move it into a special stabilization account for the opioid harm reduction. And then the money will automatically flow into that account as it's received, and then it can be spent out of that account, and that'll solve the separation problem and segregation, if you will, because it could very likely get bound up in free cash, and then how do you account for it, and what portion of it, and
Well, we have payments already.
3 of them,
And
yeah,
where did that go?
general fund.
Okay,
We don't
so,
have a special stabilization
so
yet.
when we set up the special stabilization, can we take it out of the general fund, or is that?
No, because you'd have to have free cash.
Okay,
So that's why I said, let's
So
do
we
it out
need
of
to do it.
stabilization, so that when we certify the free cash, all of it will roll into free cash. We won't have to say, okay, now we've got to take out this amount, and it won't be until next December, and we're going to be receiving additional payments between now and December
so when can we set up that special,
at town meeting.
okay,
So that's a warrant article,
Right, so we're setting up
a special
a special
stabilization.
stabilization fund. When free cash is certified, that'll automatically roll over in this account?
No,
Oh,
no, we're taking it out of the town's stabilization, of which we have 240.
Okay,
We're using 231 on the budget
Right.
and 6 and some change on the, for the opioid.
okay.
So is that everything we've received so far is a 67, 73?
Yes, sir.
I mean, saying that we're gonna use 231, I mean, if this isn't 100% accurate with the school budget number, would that reduce down what we're taking out of stabilization?
If perchance it does, it would roll into free cash, any surplus. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
all right, Carl, so I got lost in the shuffle here, so.
Surely.
The money that we received
Yes,
went into the general fund,
correct. And so
and
when
we're
we,
gonna take it out of stabilization.
yes, so that we don't have to take it out of we don't have to account for it. And plus the other thing is too, is that the special stabilization account is going to be an account that it would automatically flow into. It's not subject to town meeting appropriation anymore. That's why it's a special stabilization account. So it'll solve that problem right from the get-go. And then we can figure out, obviously after town meeting, how we're going to do our harm reduction strategy for the opioid crisis.
Okay.
So on the warrant, we have the school budget at the correct number of 2.38,
Yes,
but on this worksheet from Donna, we have it at
2894,
2894.
right.
So
So
doesn't this have to be adjusted to match what the warrant is?
this is informational
Okay.
for you. That's not going to town meeting, so actually,
I know this
Works.
is, but we're basing it like off of that number though, aren't we? What we need to balance the
well, right, and
231 out of.
she's got that, but then we've edited the budget since last week. And,
Correct, yeah, just it's not adding up for me, because
Yeah.
that's a $55,000 difference. Of why we need to take so much out of stabilization if,
I'd rather go as much than as less, because I don't want to come back to, after town meeting if Department of Revenue says that we're over budget.
So,
So going through, do you want to go through the warrant
sure.
article by article? Some of them are really standard, and some of them are going to need more detail.
Okay.
Now, another thing, and have you guys, I'm going to give you each one of these sheets, I'm going to need them all back.
They're in alphabetical order.
So, if you could pass one down to Bob, one to Jeff, and these are not all the same, so you're getting different ones. So, it is our understanding that we would want this information as far as salaries. So now, what we would do is chop off from here over. We don't need that. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 boxes, and underneath there is what would go into the annual town meeting report. Is that something the board wants us to do?
Why are you doing it? I mean,
Well, as part of the annual report is that that's an expenditure.
It's never been in there previously, has it?
It
Like this?
has, except for last year, it was in there all the time. Every employee,
Yeah, and that is all public information.
it is.
And I noticed last year I was looking and it was kind of hard. It almost, in my opinion, it was almost like not being transparent with what people are making, which, like say, I work for Mass DOT. People go to the Boston Globe and see what I made. And when you're a public employee,
So.
people have a right to
you
do
can share
that.
that.
So, I know the individual, like I say, not every individual wants everyone to know what they're making, but when you're a public employee, that is public information.
It is, and
And
people have a right to know.
people have a right to know.
And part of the purpose of a annual report is that you're reporting to the taxpayer where you spent their money.
Right.
And so I just want, for clarity,
Right.
that you want us to do this, and we will do it. That's all.
So why are these the only,
We all just have a sample sheet, so I got.
Oh, okay,
Well, the rest of them are here.
I got you.
I'm only giving you 3 pages, and I need them back because this is the actual.
I got you.
I mean, I'm much rather, if we're gonna put this in, I'm much rather see it in a list view like this instead of a complete, like,
Understand
Breakdown.
that Rochelle has had to move heaven and earth to get this, and then to put it into that format she's really
I
quite
started
busy.
a spreadsheet and I've been working diligently on it. Because there's employees in that pay period. It just says town and school. So I've been trying to get who did what, so it can list the positions correctly, and that way going forward next year, all I'll have to do is edit this, because no one can seem to find where that came from. I've inquired all around.
So it's gonna be in town warrant, not in this form, but in this,
In which form?
If I can get that form done, which I probably will be able to before town meeting, then I can have it like that, but it may have to be as a handout, because we've already submitted everything to Bex for printing, so that they could get on with printing our annual report.
So you tell us how you want it, and that's how it'll be. I mean, are you gonna be able to put it in that format, or are we gonna?
I can have it in that format prior to town meeting.
Okay.
I just can't, it'd be
Right.
not enough time to have it in the book.
okay, so you can have it.
But
in
if we
this-
do this, would it be in the book? If we just
I
cut
would
this
have to
off?
check with Bex.
Okay.
I mean, I would say at this point, as long as it's available for people to take with the book, if it's, too much work or time restraint, I guess that doesn't matter as long as the information's there. And then next year, we would put it in the book, right?
Yeah, because I'll have it all up.
Yeah.
I have a spreadsheet compiled already that I'm working on.
Okay. So it's either gonna be in the book this way, or it's going to be as a handout this way.
I'd prefer that way, like it was in the book as a handout personally.
They're both gonna be a handout.
I feel like that's very general, and the spreadsheet from payroll just says town or school, and that's on the opposite side of the sheet, so either way it would have to be into a different format, because if I cut off that other end of the sheet, you're not gonna see town or school with the employee.
I know you said you'd have it ready by town meeting. Do you think by mid-next week you might
I could,
have that? I mean, we can make that work with the annual report getting it in there like that, time-wise. I can shuffle some things and
yeah, I think I could.
make it work.
And if you can, you can. If you can't, then it'll be a handout.
Okay, we're saying it's a handout either way. Unless.
Possibly,
we
if she can
this-
get that to the printing, then there's a reasonable chance it can get into the book,
Right.
which would be our preferred
Next week.
method.
Next week.
Yeah. So maybe around Wednesday, I don't know, by Wednesday afternoon or possibly. You had all this compiled, then I'll make sure it gets in there and
Okay.
we can get it done in time.
But if you can't, depending what comes up, then at least be a handout.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
All right, so it's in there one way or the other.
right.
All right. Well, Dan, we certainly appreciate that, because that would be, that would be,
So I need all those sheets back.
yes, I know you're looking at me, Carl. My sheet's in there.
I sent 3 and got 3, we're good.
Pass that back to Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
Okay. So you want to go through the articles?
Yeah, so everything is pretty much,
Okay, article number 1, standard.
right?
Article number 2, standard. Article number 3, standard. And let me explain what compensating balance agreements are, just so that everybody understands it. So it allows us to receive services from a financial institution for depositing our money in their account, such as free checking or things of that nature. Article 4 is that there's a revolving fund in an amount of $5,000, which we would appropriate and then use the forfeiture, fines and forfeitures from police activities to fund training, equipment, and fuel for the police department. It's very standard. Then in Article 5, we have the annual compensation for elected officials. There's really no change there. Okay, for the school, the $2.838417 million is where we're at. Represents a 2% increase.
And the school's okay with that?
Yeah, they said that they did get their grant.
Okay.
Next article, number 7, is McCann Tech, which has gone up about $70,000. Article number 8 allows us to work with and accept assistance road-wise from the Mass DOT. Then we have, now if you look at your budget requests, you'll see total legislative, 100. You'll see that as you see it.
Were you looking at budget requests?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
see the dark numbers?
Yeah,
They'll correspond with
What's in
each
bold?
category. Because we vote on a departmental basis. So you'll vote.
The finance one, Carl, the 7 and 9 are backwards. On the warrant, it shows 9,000. I'm sorry, that was the increase or decrease? Oh, wait a minute.
It should be 147,603.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Which
not on the
would be-
total. Got it,
And so then,
yep,
and I have decreases in red
yep.
and increases in black. So you can see where the increases are with a glance in the budget, and you can see where the decreases are at a glance with the budget. Our health insurance went up 2.3%, which is actually a godsend compared to last year. But it's not cheap. The liability insurances did have a reasonably significant $16,000 bump.
And McCann, that big increase is simply because more kids are going there.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's, obviously not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we
No.
want our students to be educated.
Ken's an excellent school, just, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
With the liability insurance, is that something that at some point we can, I don't know if it has to go out to bid or how, just to kind of check it and make sure there's not a cheaper I don't want to reduce coverage, but
Right.
I just know after so long, whether, with on a personal side, homeowners or
And I
auto.
had that same discussion with Maya, for both that, but as well as our health insurance. Cautioning you that our health insurance is a component of the teacher's contract. So if, I've had a very candid, shall we say, discussion with Maya on health insurance, and, basically that we needed to look at options because we need to reduce this number. And so I think that they heard us loud and clear, so I hope that that is going to have some effect. As part of the health insurance for this year, we did add another option. It's the insured plus one. So if you have an employee who is either has a singular spouse or a child, normally they would have had to get the family plan. Now they can get the 1+, which is significantly cheaper for both the town and the worker. So I believe that impacts 5 or 6 people. It doesn't change their options or coverage as if they were family, and they're automatically moved into that. So there should be some savings there too. It's a hard budget. It's a tough budget. I understand that, and if there's any takeaway from the residents is, clearly they've seen their bills go up nearly 9%, and our increase in aid from the Commonwealth is less than 1%, even though they're swimming in cash and we are not. So unfortunately, and we've been very cognizant of the fact that we don't want to tax people out of Dodge, that we have tried to keep the impact minimal on the community, but at the same time we're facing the same increases that every homeowner and resident is, whether it's fuel or wages or goods and services. The costs are going through the roof.
Yeah, and I saw the Chapter 70 school aid numbers that John Franzoni sent me, and it's ridiculous. Clarksburg gets like $10,000, and the surrounding schools in the school union are only getting like $2,500. Pittsfield's getting $6.5 million. You say, well, Pittsfield's got 46,000 people. Clarksburg's only got 1,600. But if you multiply 1,600 by 30, to get up to a Pittsfield, that's only $300,000.
Yeah.
They get $6.5 million. So I mean, the equity.
It's obscene.
It's not even, it's obscene.
It's
It's
obscene.
not even close, and they obviously are on the mentality that they want to close all little town schools down and want everything to be regionalized, and that's where their money's going, which to me is the breakdown of society, is doing away with neighborhoods and neighborhood schools and all this and that.
You know what, and I think that, in my 21 years, the town of Clarksburg takes great pride in both the quality of our education and its presence here in the community. I mean, we're a community that doesn't have a lot.
Right.
But we do have a high quality elementary system and school. And a lot of the salutatorians and valedictorians that come out of the local high schools do come from towns just like Clarksburg and Clarksburg itself.
Absolutely, dude.
And I'll add one more point to that, is if the pandemic has showed us anything, overcrowded schools do not work. And so it would seem to me that in reflecting on the effects of the pandemic and the need for social distancing, you would want to encourage small school districts. And then another point I would like to make is the state, is on their soapbox about sharing municipal services. Well, our school union has been doing that since the 1970s.
Yep.
We share an administration with Florida, Savoy, Monroe, Rowe, and obviously ourselves, to reduce the costs. I mean, we were cool before cool was cool. But the problem is that because we're a school union and not a school district, we're not entitled to transportation aid. So that's inherently unfair.
Yeah.
It is. I think that they should recognize that a school union serves a similar, if not the same function as a school district, and should compensate and or assist in the transportation costs more evenly. And I don't want to get on my soapbox because I won't stop, but there are some issues that are not kind to the town.
No, dude.
So are we good with Article 9?
We're good.
Because Article 10 is kind of sort of similar to the one regarding the fund for funding police tasks. So this one is for our inspectors, the gas inspector, electrical inspector, things of that nature. And so what you do is you put a lump sum of money into an account, and then it's dispersed. So a lot of our inspectors, the fee that the town collects, 75% of that fee goes to compensate that inspector. So that's all that is. Okay, so Article 11 is the establishment of the special stabilization account. I think it's rather detailed in its description of that. And it's identifying the funding, as is Article 12. They're basically together. So Article 11 establishes the special stabilization account and its intent and purpose. And Article 12 is the moving of the $6,700 into that special stabilization account. And then because the concern is, we know the rules of the road right now, but this is a 16-year endeavor. And I'm not going to be here in 16 years. And so this is going to simplify it for the future and also comply with the mandates that were handed by the Attorney General.
I think there's going to be a few questions on this, Carl, but I think it's pretty obvious. So that 6773 is the total of the 3 payments we've gotten so far.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't know where this is going to be dispersed yet.
That's a discussion that I would like to have a much deeper dive into that after we get into our new fiscal year. And I'd like to invite former Mayor Alcombright to speak to that also.
Well, I think, you're going to probably need to say that. I'm sure somebody's going to want to know where that money's going.
It hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
We haven't spent any of it.
No, I mean, I know that, but where it's intended to go. I mean,
harm reduction and strategies for mitigating, hopefully eliminating, the opioid crisis. And this, and I'd like to point out that this money was on the backs of a lot of bad stuff, death and destruction and terrible, terrible things. And so we shouldn't be treating it lightly, because the price that towns and cities and society have paid for this crisis is high.
Right, I'm thinking that people of Clarksburg are gonna want to know that this is going to go into, help other, like North Adams, and we're all going to a pot, aren't we? More than
Well,
specifically
I
for
think that's a
Clarksburg?
decision, and I don't think we're there yet as far as how we want to disperse the funds. I mean, I think we have to have a reasonable plan that addresses harm reduction and education, and how do we armor our children and our society against the ill effects of such reckless behavior, I guess, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah, and this money is going to Clarksburg, but we can decide to put it in with a regional program.
Absolutely.
Or we can decide that, no, and it doesn't have to be all or none, but there's some of the money we might want to use at Clarksburg School to hit kids early. So we'll make those decisions later on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd again like to see some of the money stay in Clarksburg.
Yep.
Yep, and I,
Okay.
And then Article 13, I'd like to do a little bit of a deeper dive in this. This is it's generally a routine item, but, you know, we have a new sewer agreement for 10 years, and understanding that we're not in the driver's seat, and that we utilize the sewer system, as well as the Hoosick Water Quality District, their facilities to be able to use our toilets and bathrooms and sinks and things of that nature. So, that being said, our portion of the capital fees, as well as our portion of operational and capacity, has risen from a 10%, which was in 2005, our last agreement, and it has gone to 13%. And that is reflective of our population shift, and what that in quick order means is that North Adams' population went down faster than ours. So we compromise 13% of North Adams' population versus what we were in 2005 was 10%. Now, that being said, there is, you know, also aging infrastructure, not just with our own system, but also with the Hoosick Water Quality District. And there's also an issue, and I don't know how it's all going to shake out, because it was just released maybe a month ago, is that the sludge that comes out, the treated sludge that is the byproduct of the Hoosick Water Quality District, had been sold and, you know, used for golf courses and things of that nature. And so that did not cost the district monies to dispose of the sludge. It does appear PFAS, which is a forever chemical, has been found in the sludge, and so it can't be distributed, and so it's going to have to be shipped, probably similar to toxic waste, if you will. And I'm just giving you a heads up of what the future is going to bring, and I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to cost
them money to get rid of it.
Now, also understanding that we, as a community, spent $77,000 back in 2020-21 to study the inflow and infiltration of our sewer lines. So the takeaways from that are, and 60% of Clarksburg's sewer is in good condition. 40% is not. And within that bounds of that study, it did identify approximately 18 manholes that are going to need to be repaired and or upgraded. So we're going to need a plan. There also identify some sewer pipes that are going to have to be repaired. And so there's various locations in town that are going to need to be upgraded. So the question is, do we put the engineering and the repairs on the sewer bill, or do we at least for this year, because there's going to be a sewer increase. There's no walking away from that. I think, there is a possibility of at least reducing that somewhat. And we do have adequate reserves for the sewer enterprise fund of about $190,000. So would we want to do the engineering and the repairs for inflow and infiltration? And I'll go and describe I&I in a minute. But that is the question, is do you want to have that, in operations, or do you want to use the reserves of that account to, at least for this year, digest that $57,000. Now, I&I stands for inflow and infiltration. And so basically, when you have old sewer lines or old manholes that are leaky, and also pointing out in our study, they trended the weather. So when it rained, was there an increase in flow? And there was a direct correlation in certain areas of town, which does mean a couple of things. The piping needs repair. And I would also like to point this out to John Q. homeowner, or Jane Q. homeowner. It is illegal to have your sump pump in the sewer. It's illegal. And we can terminate your service if that's found to be the case and not corrected. When you are adding clean storm water and sump pump water to the sewer system, too much clean water inhibits the bacteria that necessary to digest the sludge. So it hurts the process. But also it increases the expenses of the district to treat that, because the volumes are so much larger. And so I would encourage people to, run a hose out your, door or window from your basement into an area. It's clean water. You could water your lawn with it or save it in, rain barrel or something like that. But please do not put your sump pump water into the sewer system, because it's driving your costs up. It's plain and simple. There's not a clean way to say that.
Right, but as an individual, what people would say, the rest of the people are paying for it. So the individual saying, hey, I could dump in the sewer, it's going to go up a few pennies, but everyone's going to pay for it. The point is it's illegal.
Yeah.
And the point is they should be fined if they're caught doing
There's
it.
a $500 a day fine in it.
Right.
Has there ever been an inspection done?
I've worked on a number of different scenarios, and none of them have seemed to get any traction. I've had a chat with Chipper a number of years ago regarding when they do a smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, if they could add a sump pump inspection to that, because they're mandatory inspections prior to selling your home. And the fire department wasn't interested in getting involved, and I understand that, because it puts them in a conflict and or that they're an enforcement mechanism, and then they rely upon the charity of the town to operate, and I get that. And the other thing is, same thing with the building inspector, but unfortunately we only have her for so many days. And it would, take the better part of 25, 30 years to get through the town. So if there's a good idea, I'm all ears.
How many houses have sewer?
400 and something. Actually, I think it's like it's in our sewer agreement. We updated it, 354? 354.
Right, yeah.
That's quite a few
And that's
inspections
what,
that
about
have to be
half the
done.
town, or
Excuse me?
is that about half the town?
Pretty much. Yeah, right about, yeah.
So what are you suggesting here? The capital expenses we pull out of the enterprise fund, that 57,000?
No, what I'm suggesting is engineering and repairs. So that's 57 right there. And we're going to have to, just live with the North Adams water fee, the North Adams fee, and the capital. Those are normal. We used to have a debt service. The debt has been paid off. And, I've heard some folks complain that when the sewer was put in 86-ish, they were told that it was $80 a quarter and it would never go up. And I didn't make that promise. And I think it was an unreasonable promise. One that couldn't be kept, and for anybody to think that the price will never go up,
No, that's unreasonable.
it's unreasonable.
Right, of course, the prices all go up.
Costs go up, and administrations change, and things wear out.
Well, that'd be like saying that a homeowner, your Title V, the cost will never go up on that.
That's it.
It's gone from like 5,000 to 25,000,
The cost of ground round,
Yeah.
or,
anything.
Hamburg is never going to go up. Well, that's not a reasonable expectation, and unfortunately, some people believed it, and unfortunately, now it's a bitter taste. I get it.
Okay, so if we pull out the engineering and repairs
Yeah.
from enterprise fund, that's 57,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is going to, we don't have an idea how much the sewer bills will be going up.
They're probably going to be going up around 25 to 30%.
That's a big increase.
It is, and if we leave those in there, it's going to be more like 50%. And that's what's causing me great trepidation. So if you look at our maintenance and operations are the same, the intra-municipal services is the same. So the only increases that would be passed on to the homeowner or business owner is the North Adams fee and the capital fee for Hoosick Water Quality District. And those are beyond our control.
And you're saying 190,000 is in,
Is about what we got in there.
how does that money, how did the 190,000 get there?
Over the years, it was like over 300,000 when I left in 19. And I know that we've spent 77,000 and then some change on some other things.
How did it get up to 300,000? Where's that money come from?
It comes from users. And so that money is basically good management, that we didn't spend everything that was budgeted for over the years.
So
There was one year that and I remember Mr. Lanier was quite upset, when we had to appropriate $12,500 for people who didn't pay. Well, eventually we're going to pay, but, for operations we had to do that. And so that money was recaptured, and it's within that reserve.
So is there a board that oversees
Yeah,
sewer?
I'm looking at them. You are the sewer commissioners.
That's what I was just wondering. Since it's almost like its own kind of enterprise, if
It
there
is,
was
it's an enterprise
If
fund,
there
that's
was,
exactly what it is. So it's separate from the
a board
town,
for,
and it receives no support from the town.
yeah, the
So-
sewer users pay their
the
own
vote.
way and the town does not.
Yep. I mean, we provide the services, we provide the maintenance and operations. I know that, we have not only 4 pump stations, enforce mains. But we also have the meters that, you know, they have to be annually inspected and maintained by the company that sells them to us, and calibrated to make sure they're accurate. That's part of our sewer agreement. That's been part of our sewer agreement since they were put in 2005. So, you know, we do have operational expenses, plus electricity to run these pumps, and the staff to,
So the town is pitching in those parts of it, you're saying? No?
No.
Okay.
so like the intra-municipal service charges is the sewer paying Clarksburg.
Okay. To oversee the electricity, the time and effort from the.
No, that's for my time, Kyle's time,
Yep.
his workers' time, the accountant, the treasurer,
Okay.
everybody who, and the all of the people who have to contribute services
Mhm.
to make it work, because without people, it's not gonna work, and you have to have and you have the tax collector having to collect the sewer bills and account for it, and, you know, there's actually probably expenses, you know, like other portion of the computer system that, you know, costs us $26,000 a year just to service the software system. So there's a lot more to running a sewer system. It's not just as if it's a pipe going down a hill.
So I'm going from memory because I don't have it in front of me. Right. What are we charging users right now? Is it like 800 a year, or is it?
The actual numbers are, obviously, you have North Adams fee, and then you
Yep.
have Clarksburg's fee on
Mhm.
top of that. So off the top of my head, I don't know. I think that even though I'm one person, I have a two-family house, which is not the next door. It used to be my office, it's vacant. But I pay a two-family rate, and I believe I'm around $1,500 a year. You know, and I guess it's relative if you have a septic system. I mean, I know there's a house on Middle Road that got they put in a new septic system in '94. And in '95, when Title V came in, theirs was pre-existing. Then in '96, they went to sell their house, they had to put a new septic system in. Then the people who bought it in '96 went to sell it in 2000, and they changed the regulations, and they had to put a new one in 2000. So in a period of 6 years, that house had 3 brand new septic systems. And you know, those things are not cheap. They're like $50,000 a pop.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and I know this isn't $1,500 a year, but I mean, you have to get your sewer pumped out every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple $100, and just there's always maintenance to these things.
that's it. I grew up, you know, my folks had a septic system, and
So at some point, obviously not a decision right now, but do we need to go up on the rates so we kind of keep a little, you know, keep some money flowing?
Well,
So we're not kind of depleting out so we're not depleting out that sewer enterprise fund?
what I'm looking at is we're gonna probably only be able to do possibly 2 manholes with the repairs, and to engineer out what we need to do. I would like to explore grants wherever possible, like Mass Works, when we get to that point, but we're not there yet, to ease the burden on that. But yes, if need be, and we had a 30-year loan on when the sewer was installed, and so there was, we paid it off, I believe it was in 19 or 20.
Right.
And so that debt has gone away. There is the reasonable expectation that once we have a clear handle on what our expense will be and what grants are available to minimize the impact, we may have to borrow at some point in the future to affect the changes. And we're not the only ones in this situation.
And that would be the sewer district that would
Yes,
or borrowed
there is
money.
no,
It's not the town.
and here's the reason why, because people who are on a septic system, they have their own expense. They shouldn't be subsidizing the sewer users.
Are there a lot of delinquent,
I think it's gotten better very recently. I am aware that North Adams has shut off 5 people on water. So that's a problem. Now, on a side note to that, Cleve and I went to a class for LIWAP, which is based off of low-income heating. So if you qualify for low-income heating assistance, you would automatically qualify for low-income water and sewer assistance. And so the reason is we signed up the town and the water users through Berkshire Community Action. The system does not work. I have been on the phone. It doesn't populate our people, sewer or water. One person came through, was able to get a $450 reduction in their water bill. Well, it doesn't help the town per se, because we don't sell water. And nobody seems to be able to fix this, and there's only $50 million in that grant. And I recently reached out, I think it was last week on that. There was a survey regarding the LIWAP program, and I was very blunt and told them it doesn't work. And we've been trying to get it to work, and I have made repeated attempts since February. So I guess that one person in town was, lucky and their name came up on it. But there was another person who does not populate in my dashboard, if you will, from that assistance program. But there's people who qualify, who don't qualify, that are showing up. But this person who did qualify, and we told him about it, he went down to Berkshire Community Action, and they were able to sign him right up. So, well, bully for him, and that's good for him, but that's not how the system is supposed to be administered. And I've extended my concern to the powers that be. So we'll see if that makes any difference. You know what, my theory is by the time they fix it, the money will be gone. So back to, the issue is that should we move the engineering and the repairs into using the reserves of the
Enterprise fund?
the sewer enterprise fund, at least, I think, and my thought is there's going to be enough sticker shock with the sewer. If we could minimize that, that probably would be appreciated, I'm sure, maybe.
Okay, so the article states that the town will transfer $30,000.
Yeah, I just wrote that this morning, Jeff, and waiting for actual, whether it's going to be 30 or 57.
Okay.
And that's why we're here today, is to iron out some of these.
So you want to put the engineering in that as well?
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think.
And that'll obviously cut down on the how much the users have to pay.
Clearly, yes.
Okay. And that doesn't, we'll still have over $100,000 in the enterprise fund.
Mm-hmm.
And that's continuous, or that is...
I think we manage, I mean, obviously we don't want to be coming back for problems of lack of funding for whatever. So if we have $53,000 for maintenance and operations, if we are fortunate enough to manage the money well, and there's a couple $1,000s left over, it goes back into the reserves. We've had the sewer enterprise fund now for 30 years. So it's not like it generates a lot of money, but I think that we've been pretty judicious in its operation.
That money goes into the fund, what, quarterly? How does that work?
Annually.
So when people pay,
Well, the sewer, that goes in there every quarter, yes, from
Yeah,
that.
okay.
But as far as us, not spending everything that we're given, that would be annually. Excuse me.
okay, so what you're looking for is the article to read, will transfer 57,000?
Yes,
And that'll be from the sewer enterprise fund to pay expenses for systems repairs and also for engineering.
yep,
And the engineering is obviously for the pothole repair, not pothole,
for the,
manhole
for
repair.
the, manholes and sewer pipe. And let me just be clear, is, the repairs, it's $30,000, and it's anywhere from 12 to 20,000
Per,
per manhole. We have at least 18 manholes that need to be fixed. So this is just scratching the surface. I mean, we're trying to show good faith to the DEP, because I don't want to get into a tussle with them, and I certainly don't want to be subject to fines, because fines do no good. It's money over the dam, so to speak.
So you're gonna do the engineering for like 2 manholes?
No, I would like to do engineering for the deficient area of, with the piping and the whole thing, but we are aware of that we need piping, that we need manholes, and
But we don't have money for it. Would you say 18?
no. Good God, you would
Right,
need
so
$400,000.
So what do we have money for to complete? 2?
Well, that's what I'm anticipating, 2 or 3. We're going to look at the worst ones.
Okay.
That's you can only do what you can do with what you have. I would like, it's kind of like paving the roads in town. I would like to do them all at once, but you certainly don't have the funding to do that.
No, I mean, so as a plan to do like a couple a year?
Yeah,
Okay. All
I
right.
minimally, and if we get a grant, we'll go, gangbusters on
Grants.
it as best we can. So with your permission, I'd like to edit that to be 57, if that makes sense, and,
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. Do we need a motion yet, or?
well, not really, because you're gonna motion everything Monday when we put this baby to bed.
Okay.
I mean, unless you want to, you certainly can.
No, let's do it under one
Okay.
blanket motion, if you will.
yeah, so that's, Article 13, and then you got an article, but that's all Article 13, this is?
Yes, and the reason is because, well, the article down here
Yeah.
goes to the next page. And I didn't number them because until I have the final, I started numbering them, and then I know that there's some gonna come out and some that
That's
are
why
gonna
why I
add.
mentioned that Article
Oh, yeah.
16's gotta stay 16, because that's
And that's fine.
what she's putting on.
Yeah, we can stay
Okay.
with 15.
All right.
Article 14 would be to seek the permission of the voters for the town to enter into up to a 20-year lease for the landfill and an adjacent 5-acre parcel for the installation of solar photovoltaic generation. And the lease of the land payments for that 20 years would go into the town's general fund, as would the payment in lieu of taxes, which in effect is a tax like your excise tax on your car. And so we did talk to legal counsel. And that will need town meeting approval. Now, relative, because I know we had a discussion about the roof, that does not need town meeting approval.
Okay. And then the article before that about the Agricultural Commission.
They jumped over that one at the top. It kind of.
Okay, yeah, my
Yeah,
bad.
awkwardly starts right
Yeah,
right here and doesn't have an, I know it's not a number, but it doesn't have a number on it.
Yeah, I was thinking it was part of the other one, yeah, my bad. All right, so are we good with 14, go back to 13-ish?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Regarding, we had a citizen interested in establishing an agricultural commission. And I did some research, mass general laws and things of the nature, and it sounds rather benign. I guess, my only concern, is because we have so little taxable property, I'm just in hopes that we don't lose more to that. I think the goals are admirable. I think it's very good sign that there are citizens in town willing to serve, because we've seen a very big shortage of that over the number of recent years.
And I didn't really get out of that meeting with her that she was trying to take property off the tax rolls.
Yeah, and I didn't either. And we have a number of 61As and 61Bs, and then putting conservation restrictions on property. How does that affect our tax rate? Because we're kissing our levy limit. I mean, you can see that we need to diversify the tax base of the town. Either that or rely on more state aid, and I don't see that as a viable option forward. So we have to take care of Clarksburg to the best of our ability.
Did Ms. Tanner say she was going to be there to, in case there's questions? I'm sure she'll be.
I would assume that she would be.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be questions about it. It's pretty straightforward, it seems to me.
I spoke with her yesterday, and she said she will be at a town meeting.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Good. What was her first name?
Martha.
Martha.
Okay, so are we good with Article 14?
Yes.
14, yes.
Okay, so Article 15 is that, and the interesting thing is that the bill was dated June 30th of 22, so that's probably why it got lost in the, but anyways, we have an $855 bill from our attorneys relative to hiring the treasurer, who had been formerly the select board member, seeking legal guidance on making sure that it was done in a proper and appropriate manner. So the thing is, it happened in fiscal 22. You can't pay bills outside of the current fiscal year. So this is more of a housekeeping item. We're not disputing the bill. It wasn't done intentionally. It's, we've struggled terribly in our financial departments. And and it could have come across my desk for all I know. So I don't even know who would be, but the bottom line is it happened. And I think, the June 30th component is rather
That's
telling.
probably why, that's probably why it happened. I don't think there'll be any problem with it.
No, and lots of times on these, it's not a criticism, because you have a tendency to be thorough, and I appreciate that in the select board meetings. But town meeting, a lot of these warrants, it's just a quick answer people are looking for. They want quick, direct, and they don't need all the history or whatever of it. We do, but they don't, unless they ask questions, obviously.
Yeah, this should pass pretty.
Okay, and then the next one, we already met with Sue Brandon on that, so that's the Council on Aging. And then Article 17 is submitted by the town clerk, and we did have a public hearing, I believe it was April 19th. And we want to put the zoning bylaws online, but there's numerous grammar, punctuation, and spelling errors over the years. And so this is to correct the grammar, the punctuation, and spelling in the zoning bylaws so that they can go to codification. And then once they're able to clean them up, then they can go online and we won't be embarrassed by
I think I remember this one last year, right? It was in there.
but the problem was is that there had not been a hearing when this was first proposed
Right,
back
there has
in
to be a public
21.
hearing
There
for
has to
that
be
first.
preceding the vote at town
Yep.
meeting.
Gotcha.
So that's why it had to be done over again. And I'm sure number 18 is interesting. So we did get a petition from citizens, some of them signed by children who can't vote, I will add, but it is what it is. And it is at the pleasure of the select board to choose whether this is goes on the warrant or not. I have gotten legal counsel opinion, and it is their opinion that you, as the select board, do have the authority as to whether to move forward with that or not.
So there was three components to this.
Yeah,
wasn't
and they each one have their own.
there? Each one has their own article?
Yeah, so, and we'll get to the others here too.
So my thought is that maybe this needs more explaining, or maybe there needs to be another meeting, or maybe the lines need to be cleaned up in a slightly different way, possibly. Should we hold off on this, having this on it for now, and then revisit it? Just as one part, but obviously the other.
That was my idea last week, that, and I wasn't at that meeting for the 19th. I don't know if we bring this up at town meeting, it's probably going to be,
Boisterous.
it is, but it's probably not going to pass anyway. I mean, I'm sure, so
They'll stack the meeting.
in an attempt to be more thorough and more clear, I think we should table this but have more discussion in the future, and so people will know what we're talking about, because there's a lot of confusion.
If we table it, does it jeopardize that grant at all?
No, because they also said that they're deliverable.
Right.
You have to attempt it. Because they can't mandate what the town meeting is going to vote.
Right, but I'm saying, the attempt is to put it on as an article, that's what I was.
Well, no, I mean, because the grant also paid for a number of the other items.
Okay,
So like the next one,
yeah,
on the dimensional tables.
yeah, and then the one
And
after
the
that.
upland conservation, so those are part of the same grant, so we will have a deliverable.
Okay. Then, yeah, it's not that,
Okay,
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
to table that as well.
all right, and then Article 19. So in areas of town that are serviced by public water and public sewer. So this does not impact anybody who areas are on wells and or septic systems. So we're talking somewhat close together properties, like Millard Avenue and such. And what this would do is that currently our zoning requires half an acre of land. And we require 1 acre if you have water or sewer, but not both. So, obviously we're struggling financially, and we need some growth in the town. And so this would allow for, and it's not going to be huge. In fact, I'm struggling to see where there would be much in the way of, on this side of town, Clarksburg on River Road, where But there are some areas that, with a third of an acre versus a half of an acre, and it would still be there would still be an adequate amount of land. I mean, I'm on just about a third of an acre myself, and I have public water and sewer. So it's not significant change. If we got, 6, 7, 8 houses built over, the next 10, 15 years, it would serve its purpose. So it's increasing growth.
There isn't many houses that are on sewer and water, though, is there?
So we have 354 on sewer. And I know that we've got 68 dwellings serviced by public water by Briggsville. And so the number of North Adams water users, I don't know honestly how many there are, but I would suspect there's got to be a couple hundred.
Okay, so if you own a property that is not on just North Adams water?
No,
or-
also Briggsville.
Okay, also
Public water.
Okay, public water, and you have to have both.
Yes.
Currently, right now, it's at what? A third of an acre?
No, it's a half an
It's at
acre.
half, and you want to reduce it from a half
To a third.
to a third.
So that would be basically, an acre is 43,560 square feet. So you're looking at going from 21,000 square feet to something to the effect of 16.
Okay. So
Thousand.
if people wanted to, sell off some of their land?
Or, yes, they could do that, or they might build an in-law dwelling, or they might like their neighborhood and decide they want to stay there, but their house is too big. There's various reasons. It's not going to be a huge, subdivision type of a thing.
Right, I see that.
It's going to be a house here, a house there. But, we're fastly running out of land. The state owns 53% of the town, and it behooves us to manage it. And, we have to have some growth. If you don't grow, you dry up and wither away.
And so what's the next article? What are you proposing there on Article 20?
So, again, the state owns 53% of the town. And almost all of the land, with the exception of Clarksburg State Park, is zoned upland conservation. So the current zoning requires 250 feet of road frontage. So we're proposing to reduce it to 125. Now, the reason behind that is that there is a formula that the state uses as to, at least on paper, how many potential sites, building sites, they own. That goes into their calculation of I'm sorry. And so we are hoping to improve that formula so that it improves our state aid from the state for pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. We lose a significant amount of money because of the state ownership, but on the other side, it has some good things. So this impacts very, very upper West Road. And, I did searches on the maps. It's going to change precious little up there as far as
Buildable.
non-state-owned land. So there are some, properties up there that have 12, 13, 14 feet, 100 feet of frontage. But it's a cliff. I mean, if you go up West Road, the side to the west on the left is straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And the side to the right is straight down to a river. I mean, we have the river's bill. you know, in referring to that, you know, lot up there that has 1,300 feet of road frontage, if they were gonna subdivide and sell it, they'd already would have done it. And then it also impacts over on the Daniels Road area too, and some of East Road. But it slices through the middle of most of those properties. So those properties already could be subdivided if they were going to, because they're in an AR and not a UC zone, agricultural residential. So it's not really changing anything there. So I talked with a number of people, oh, people are going to start subdividing and selling off. And I said, well, there's not many that could. That's not the intent, nor do I think that will be the result. It's strictly a formula from the state of their reimbursement for the land they own here in town. That's simply, I can't say it more simply than
Who
that.
originally put it at 250 feet? Our planning board?
Yeah, back in, I want to say 88 or 89-ish, 90.
And the planning board, they approved this. I mean,
Yeah.
they're for this.
Yeah,
That-
we had no zoning until about 1968, and then they did some editing to that in the early 90s. Of course, that came right on the tails of Prop 2.5. We didn't have Prop 2.5 until, you know, like 1988. And we're seeing the effects of that. So it's an attempt to get more money out of the state, plain and simple.
I think there might be an issue, Carl. I think those same people that were so opposed to that one we just tabled are going to be there and oppose anything that has to do now with,
Well, it's not rezoning anything.
well, I know. I just got that gut feeling. And
Well, even the one before that, going down to a third lot, some neighbors or people in that area might say, oh my gosh, you're gonna be crowding houses right next door to other houses. I got a feeling that there will be a lot of questions and
Well, we have to bring
controversy.
something.
But they will vote it up or down.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Let them make the choice.
oh, that's what they're here for.
Are we able to do a handout that shows what those areas are so people can actually see it? And
Yes. That's exactly what I want to do.
no, I think that's a good, so I know what areas are affected by these changes. I think that'd be a great idea.
That might soften the blow a little bit, yeah, that would be a good idea.
Well, that's what I'm planning on doing is handouts as to, from, some of them are from the planning board, or the regional planning commission themselves. So that's fine. I'm not trying to hide anything. I have no skin in the game. I've heard, wild rumors that, I got some kind of secret deal or something going on here, of none of which is true. I do own a piece of property in Clarksburg. It's already zoned commercial. I've been a property owner since I was 15 years old in this town, and I've been a taxpayer for that time too. So, no, I'm looking to downsize. I don't want no more. I'm too old in my life to start anything.
No, I think it's just the different philosophies of people. Like say, I understand your philosophy is that we need more growth, we need to protect money. A lot of people I talk to, no, they want to protect the farmland. They don't want more growth. They feel more kids going to the schools, going to now have 2 teachers through a class rather than 1. And I mean, so, and again, I'm not here to take one side or the other. I just concede that these will bring up some discussion, which I think is fine. Let them bring up discussion, we talk about it, and then it's up to the town to decide what they want to do.
Well, in relative to the school, I mean, we were fretting about, having our enrollment decline, and now it's stabilized, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, to say that we don't want it to go up is I don't know, I disagree with that, but.
Right, and again, even with the farmland and stuff, I think that's, a lot of people look at the farmland as being
understand, yeah.
sold off and developed, and it's like, well, we gotta keep farmland here, because sooner or later, it's gonna all be gone.
Well,
And some people don't want that.
And understanding, and that's fine if that's what the voters want. But with that, there is responsibilities too. And the responsibilities are that if we don't diversify our revenue streams, your taxes are gonna go up, or your services are gonna get cut. And right now, we have a structural deficit, and it's going to need to be addressed. And the pandemic, it really highlighted that. And we're coming out of a very trying time, finally. And there are things beyond our control, you know, that are going to affect our bottom line. We can only control so many things. You know, give the town their options.
Right.
Because, you know, and again, if they decide that they don't want this, that's fine. Understand, you either, you know, raise taxes or cut services. Those are the only options that are going to be on the table.
Well, no, the third option is there's money out there for grants.
But they don't
And
pay
we
for
got it.
operations, Bob.
Well,
I mean, our structural deficit is operations,
but our roads.
but that's
and
not in
patching our
operations.
roads is operation.
That's a
And
capital
we
investment.
patch it and patch it and patch it and
And
patch it.
repatch it.
Like I say, how much money have we spent patching on West Cross Road in the last 5 years?
No.
None. So if we get the roads like that, it's gonna help, and that's what a lot of people are saying. I mean, I said, there's grants out there, there's grants out. I look at Pittsfield getting grants. And granted, I don't know what we can get, what we can't through the Mass Works. I know we're trying hard, but that is a third option that I think people are
And we've
saying.
aggressively gone after
And we
that.
are, and that's the point, we are going to keep doing that. But again, I agree with you, it's gonna be up to the people, I'm not for taking them off the warrant, but I can see where, there could be some pushback, maybe there won't be. But
It is what it
it is
is.
what it is.
There will be pushback, and you know, people don't want things to change. They want everything to stay the
I
same.
don't like change either, you
And,
know?
you know, the costs are keep going up, and then we're, you know, I don't know. Well, again, town meeting will take care of it.
Yep.
Yep, this is true.
Yep.
And then the last article is using $231,000 in stabilization funds to reduce the tax rate. And that should bring us right under Prop 2.5 levy limit.
So will the tax rate
Yes,
stay the same,
no,
go up?
yes,
How much?
about $1.83.
Really?
Well, it's gone down $2 over the last 2 years. So it'll be where it was in fiscal '21. Yeah, it's gonna go, it's gone down $2.02 over the last 2 years. It's gonna probably go up about $1.83. Yeah. Yep. The good news for next year,
I can't wait to hear this. We got good news coming, but
the debt exclusion is last payment, so we won't have to pay for that next year. We'll still have another pay, but Kyle says he needs another truck, so. And
it never ends.
Well, it never ends, and that's where there's a lot of controversy is gonna be, where if the tax rate keeps going up, people look to where most of the money is going, which of course is the school. And that's gonna, I've had people ask me, said, how much would it cost to close our school down and send the kids in North Adams? I don't wanna see that, I'm
Yeah.
not for that, because I think.
And the study we did,
But that's,
we've reviewed that, and we would have to tuition
yep,
our students. It wouldn't be school choice, $5,000 a student. It would be more like $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 per student. And that's providing that you have a community that has the capacity to absorb, you know,
right,
200 students.
right.
So it would be a wash, basically. And not only that, what do you do with the building? You know, larger communities than us have struggled with empty schools.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see easily it costing a couple $1 million to demo that. And it just, I don't know, I'm a product of that school, and I think everyone here is also.
Yes,
Well,
we don't want to see the school
at this
go,
table.
but I'm saying that when taxes keep going up, the people look at the target as where is the tax money going? And
Well, I think the
they
target should be
wanna-
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that they own half of our town, and they
Well,
don't give us
but-
an adequate amount of money.
right, but that's not going to change. or we're gonna try to change it, obviously, but,
Well, you know,
I mean, I look at, whenever you go more than $1 on the tax rate, that's a big increase. So you're looking at like a 10% increase.
but I would also caution people that, you know, their assessed values are lower than what the houses are selling for. So, and there's a challenge in the assessing department because you need 7 to 10 sales of like-type properties. So you can't compare a ranch to a colonial.
Right.
So you have to have 7 or 10 ranches. Well, heck, we only had 15 real estate sales. So the problem is if you have an outlier, you know, we had a house that was assessed at $243,000 and it sold for $450,000. But it's not like we can just, you know, change the assessment. There has to be a trend analysis. And that's another terrible hurdle we have, is that we don't have enough sales that would indicate that the values have gone up. I mean, tax rate and the assessments have an inverse relationship most times, except for in fiscal 21, and I'm still not understanding why that was. So, assuming, again, in isolation, that assuming the government is not spending more money, you have to assume that to understand how the tax and the assessment works. So if your assessed values go up, you have more assessed value to tax, your tax rate goes down.
Right.
And during the big recession of 07, 08, when our assessments went down, the tax rate went way up. And people look at the the tax rate as being the where-all and end-all. That's not necessarily true, because you have to look at that in tandem with your assessed value. How did that respond?
Right. But that also, people look at, myself included, is when I was a selectman in the 90s, we always kept the tax rate around $11. Now, when we did a revaluation, of course, the property values went up, so the tax rate would go down to like $8, $9.
Yeah.
And gradually go up. Because inflation should not be included. That's what people tell me. Well, inflation, tax rate should keep going up. No, inflation is your property values go up. So the tax rate should always stay around the same, because inflation takes care of property tax. So when you increase both, then the town's spending too much money on services.
And that was
So you're right.
fiscal 21.
Then do we have to cut services? Do we have to, like, say, the school, as much as the school's the #1 rated school, are there things that they can really cut? Because like they said, they never want to cut, you know, into the services provided.
Yeah.
But the point is, you can't just keep going up on both.
If your tax rate and your assessed values are going up, you know, in tandem, that's not where you want to be.
No. So, I'm not sure about the assessed value. I was assistant assessor for a couple of years back in the 90s. Went to UMass to be trained and everything. And it's like, we had the same dilemma. You have to go back and try to find houses like that. But if you don't have it, we all went to a general area. That can't be done. So you're saying if there's one house, if there's like only 10 ranch houses in Clarksburg, we never go up on their assessed value?
You have your average growth.
Right.
So that's where you go. But as far as doing a whole class, that's different.
Okay, but the average growth should definitely be going up.
It is, but not a lot. I mean, I've looked at the numbers. I mean, I personally, I think of a house with an arm's length transaction, right? Not selling to your family, not selling to your, you know, uncle, that type of a thing. Fair market value is what a seller will take and a buyer will pay.
Right.
Period. There is no gray area. That property then should be assessed accordingly. Period. Why do we have all of these regulations?
Well, since that $200,000, $250,000 house sold for $450,000, is the valuation now $450,000 on that house? Because that's the fair market value of that house.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying, but you have to do it once a year. And when you set your tax rate, that's where you're going to get your growth type of thing. But you have to have 7 to 10.
I don't think that's the fair market value of that house. I think you paid a lot of more money than it's worth.
Fair market value by its
That's what you,
definition.
yeah,
Is
okay.
what you can get.
I see that, but I mean, that,
Right, and I always have to chuckle, on TV, oh, we're selling our cars for below market value. No, you're not. You cannot sell it for below market value in an arm's length transaction. Cannot be done. You lowering your price is the new market value. If it's an arm's length transaction.
so
not
that's
family.
saying the other homes that are, whatever this was, Raised Ranch or Colonial, are all now, the new market value was up around 450,000?
I would say that it's on I would, as the interim assessor, I would like to be able to do it that way on an individual arm's length transaction.
So all the houses like that, or assessed values have gone up, will be going up, or should go up.
But we can't, because you have to have enough of that type of real estate to sell in that class to then go up that kind of.
It has to be all within our town. It cannot be a neighboring community.
So if I was doing a comparable, I couldn't use that house, because that's like a,
No, you could, because real estate appraising is different than tax assessing, because I'm a certified real estate appraiser. It's totally different.
Well, I guess the bottom, I started this long discussion, and I don't mean to go on and on, but our budget is up like 2%. The school budget's up 2%. Taxes go up 10%. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, if you look at the drivers, I mean, you got the summary right here on, what is it, page 3? The town is up 65,000, the school is up 55,000, and McCann Tech is up 70,000. That's the story right there, Bob.
But the whole budget itself, how much is that up? What percentage?
I think it's up at what, 383?
Let's see, right here, I think
it's
it
at
is
the
sheet.
bottom.
Overall, 3.19%.
Then how come taxes have to go up 10%? Why shouldn't taxes go up 3% to cover that cost?
That would be a question for Donna. That I couldn't answer because I don't know.
Because technically, our revenue taxation is up 2.24%. So you think that would help balance out? Be honest, I'm still not 100% understanding this. When I'm looking at the numbers, why certain things are
Yeah.
up. Like, why is snow and ice deficit set for $33,000 for FY24, where it was $12,290 for FY23? Like,
Yep.
that's a big difference. It's $21,000 difference in the budget right there.
But I think this Pat, our experience, Dan, has been more in the $60,000 range. The issue that we have with snow roads, and Florida has increased theirs to in the 200s, which is probably reflective of their terrain. But Clarksburg, we go at 55. Once you go up, you cannot go down. Because if you go down, if you cut the snow road account, you lose your ability to deficit spend for that year. So it is the one item that we're allowed to deficit spend, but you have to make it up on the recap, which is what that's doing. Now, Florida can never go down unless they're willing, at least for 1 year, as I understand it, to not deficit spend. But then if you're doing that, then you are actually only relying on what you budgeted for it, because you can't tell what's going to happen.
You don't know
in the winter.
what there's going to bring.
And with this last winter, we spent a lot on salt, but man hours were down because we didn't have that many storms that were of any consequence. And, the timing also matters. If it's during regular work hours, that type of a thing, you're not paying overtime. So, and you're already budgeted, for them to be there during those hours. So that's not, hitting the snow roads account. But I've seen years, brutal winter, that thing easily run up $40,000, $50,000, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
No, I understand. I'm just trying. Just wondering why it's set for so much higher for the following fiscal year.
I think because of the unknown. If we were to put in $12,000 toward that, that doesn't buy you a whole heck of a lot. It really doesn't.
So pretty much the driver on the 231 out of stabilization is based off of this number down here. Close to somewhat of a driver to that.
Yeah.
That deficit.
So that's it. I mean, as long as we're in sync and now I have direction on the articles, we'll certainly, I'll have the warrant and the budget drafted for Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Now, I also would like to say I have to be out of here at 10:30 to meet with our engineer on Middle Road. So we're just going to deal with the budget and the warrant is my thoughts. If you would like, maybe half an hour or so before, you let me know. Before town meeting, we could have a select board meeting, if you will. We generally do that, but not always.
So when will we meet again?
Monday morning at 9 a.m. Because we have to have this in Maryland's hands for posting 7 days before the town meeting. So it's going to have to get posted on Monday.
Okay. And then could you ask now, because like I say, I'm really concerned about the tax rate going up that much. I don't understand why the tax rate's going up 10%.
Well,
Like I say, all our expenses we cut down, we're level funding everything, and even with the school, everything is like 3% increase overall. It would be nice to keep the tax rate down around that increase. But obviously, it's going up to cover expenses, but I don't see where. I'd like some clarification on that.
well, Bob, the town is up $65,000. So we're looking at about $180,000 in increasing spending. I mean, that's what that is telling me right there is $180,000, and hopefully, if by some virtue that we are fortunate enough to have the state's final budget be kinder to us, that would be a good thing, but I'm not holding my breath.
No, but so I realize those 3 drivers we can't do anything about, and it's going up $180,000, but the percentage of it is what bothers me. If we're only going up 3% on the budget, that means we're decreasing. Look, we had a lot of places we decreased money.
Yeah.
So I would think that the tax rate would go up that same amount to keep it going.
Yeah, there's drivers and there's negative values in our aid. If you look at our aid from the state, it's less than 1% for the school and less than 1% for the town.
Mm-hmm.
So inflation is running at 8.5%. I mean, if you look, $180,000 is almost 10% of our budget. And for a 10% increase in the budget, more or less, kind of, sort of, you're getting a 3% increase in your taxes. I don't think that that's a room to gripe. I think that given inflation being at almost 9%, a 3% increase in your taxes, I don't see that problem. I really don't.
Well, I know when the tax rate went down there last year or the year before.
Both years.
Both years. Some people were saying their actual tax bill went up.
I've had people come in here and say their tax bill went up. Well, they put an addition on their house. That is part and parcel of the that's what happens.
But and that goes back to the general evaluation of town. That, see, I feel inflation, houses have gone up.
Oh, I'm agree. And you know what? My point was our assessments haven't caught up with the inflationary values.
Okay.
That's all I was saying, Bob. There are houses that have sold at mind-boggling numbers that I look at and I shake my head and say, I can remember the day, and I think I'm dating myself. But there have been some houses that have had some stiff sale prices that it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and are there a lot of people doing renovations and additions that aren't getting building permits? Is
Well,
a big
that's-
issue.
That's a discussion we should have.
Okay.
Definitely
Alrighty.
is. So on that last article, the 231 to reduce the tax rate, are we good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I will have the budget and the warrant edited and completed. And we'll meet the next for Monday morning at 9 a.m.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do that.
And then we'll have our regular scheduled meeting Wednesday at 1. So we can go over all the other stuff.
Excuse me?
We'll have a regular meeting Wednesday at 1.
I wasn't planning on it. Let me look.
For what? We don't,
Well, for a regular meeting where we talk about all the other stuff. Like if this week we're only talking about the budget, next week we're going to talk about the budget, we're missing a week of talking about everything else that's always on the agenda, the 20 items. I thought there was going to be a regular scheduled meeting.
so are you looking to schedule meetings every week?
No, but these are extra, I thought these were extra meetings just to talk about the budget. So we didn't talk about anything else going on.
So, are we gonna be able to fit a meeting in Wednesday? I mean, are you,
I would have to look at my calendar. I don't know. I mean, I can communicate that to the board.
That's the Wednesday of the town meeting.
right,
Yeah, so we can wait. I realize that's,
so if we
because-
but then we won't meet till when? June, when's the second Wednesday?
14th, so that'd be a ways away.
Right, so that would mean we were gone 5 weeks without a regular meeting.
well, are we gonna meet before the town meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I was asking earlier, is do you want to have a meeting an hour, half an hour before the town meeting?
okay,
Which is normally what we
We
do.
always did that, yeah.
okay, that's fine.
And then, we can deal with everything that we need to deal with, if at anything at all. And warrants and stuff like that, it's not a problem.
Yeah, well, most of it is like updates on
Right.
things too. I mean, where are we, Middle Road? Where are we on the Grant Middle Road? Where are we things? It's like things go by, months go by, and we need to be updated, knowing where we are, if there's issues or whatever. Even the MVP update, the town field annual, or the anniversary meeting, I mean, all these things need to be updated and talked about. So that's, and a lot of them are quick. A lot of them are just a quick updates. But,
I agree, you gotta stay on our schedule with the second and fourth
okay,
Wednesday of the month, so technically the 24th would be the 4th.
okay. Right, that sounds good. And then we'll meet half hour before the,
I think an hour would be good.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah,
okay,
let's do an hour.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll meet here before the town, or
We used to meet right at the school.
Yeah.
Meet right at the
might as well just
school,
Meet
yeah.
right at the school.
That's what we always did.
Plus, if we have to help set up chairs or anything, whistle while you work.
so last year the town meeting was at the community, or this senior center, so it's at the school this year.
I'm anticipating a bigger turnout. For various reasons, obviously.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, if there's nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Clarksburg Select Board on Thursday, May 18th at 10:55.
The second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Ding, ding.